what is going on, Headliner Nation? Thanks so much for tuning into another episode. If you're already a part of Headliner Nation, thanks for coming back and supporting the channel. If you're not a part of Headliner Nation, welcome to the Fantasy Headliners. I'm Kyle Richardson. Hit that subscribe button down below. Become part of Headliner Nation today. And make sure you let us know in the comments so we can personally welcome you. And we've done more than enough mock drafts on this channel. We've done 7 of them to be exact. Want to get away from the mock drafts for this episode. So this is more of a prediction show, more of my thoughts, what I would like to see happen, not necessarily what I think teams will do. And I think that's a perception that a lot of people lose when reading a mock draft. Now, I will say this. People love mock drafts, but they hate mock drafts. If you don't do a mock draft exactly like somebody else does, yeah, nope. You get all sorts of hate, all sorts of comments, and it's fine. I get it. People want to see certain players taken. You're all passionate about your teams. We'll see what happens come Thursday night. We're really excited for the draft to get underway. And of course, obviously here at the Fantasy Headliners, Thursday is also a big day for us because we're launching TheFantasyHeadliners.com. So make sure you go check out the new website. A lot of great written content to go along with an awesome YouTube channel. And then obviously we'll be here live streaming the first round here on YouTube. So hit that follow button or hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. We're going to be live. We're going to be giving away some draft guides. We're going to be announcing our next signed jersey. We're going to be breaking down the entire first round, taking your questions right here on the channel live. So make sure you tune in. Jake and I will be here probably about 15-20 minutes before the draft kicks off. So make sure that you're sticking around for that. But thanks so much for tuning into this episode. Let's jump into it a little bit now. And number one, let's talk about team. We're going to relax a little bit. I'm going to kick back. I hope you don't mind. We'll scoot a little bit closer to the mic. But so the one thing that a lot of teams are saying right now, and by a lot of teams, I mean a lot of teams, is that they want to trade back. And it's not going to happen. You know, one thing I hear about this draft is that there is not a ton of talent. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I know some people don't think there's a ton of top end talent, and maybe that's what they mean when they say those things. And I'd like to rephrase that because I think there is a lot of top end potential in this draft, but there's also a lot of risk in this draft as well, and that's fine. That happens. But I think there could be some really, really good players. I like, especially on the defensive side of the ball, I like a lot of the players in this draft. And even on the offensive side of the ball, I think there's some really good players. Like with the running backs, I think this class has some really good running backs. The problem is, though, is that the NFL is saturated with running backs right now. There's so many good running backs in the NFL. Where are all these guys going to land at? Like David Montgomery, if he would have come out 1-2 years ago, yeah, maybe he lands on a good team, a team that he can contribute to, is maybe not the lead back, but a guy that's definitely a first and second down and going further than that and being on the field quite often. That might not happen now. So I think that there is a lot of risk in this draft, but I think there's a lot of really, really good players. So when we're talking about trading down, the teams that I would expect to trade down first, Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay is going to be the first team. I know a lot of people are saying that the Raiders will end up trading down, or they think they'll trade down. I don't think they do. They're making a pick at number 4. They're going to take somebody there. Would not predict at all that they're going to trade down from that spot. However, I think the Buccaneers are going to be in a prime spot to trade back because depending on what the Cardinals end up doing at number 1, what the Arizona Cardinals end up doing, if they end up passing on Kyler Murray, and they could be a team to trade back as well. I think that'd be their best bet for them to trade back. But if they end up passing on Kyler Murray, I would think that there is a potential that you see teams behind the Giants start to trade up in front of them. Now, what could happen is if they say we're passing on Kyler Murray, all of a sudden the Giants say, oh no, we need to possibly move up as well. So then maybe someone does contact the Jets and try to get up there a little bit closer. Maybe they do try to contact the Raiders. But I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be the prime landing spot for the first team to try and trade up so they can get ahead of the Giants. I know people are saying the Giants are going to take a quarterback there now, but you never know. Again, it could just be a smokescreen. I think the Lions could also end up being a good spot, and the Bills for teams trying to get up in front of the Broncos, seeing whether or not they are going to take a quarterback. I don't think the Bengals should take a quarterback in round 1, but I think we should keep an eye on it. because they have a new an offensive-minded coaching staff there. Andy Dalton is not their guy. They can move on from Andy Dalton with no dead cap space. They can move on and not have to worry about the contract anymore. They might want their guy. If they like someone enough in this draft, who knows, they might make a move. So in terms of trading up, those are the teams that I definitely see doing it, or being able to make a move back, and teams trade up with them. Now, a couple of teams that I want to keep an eye on towards the back half of the draft that could end up moving up. Number one, definitely number one I want to take a look at is definitely the Texans. They need an offensive lineman. Do they make the move up to get themselves one of the top offensive linemen in this draft? It's going to depend on how those dominoes fall at the beginning of it, but if they get a sense that there could be a run on any of those tackles, interior offensive linemen, maybe they make the move up to grab somebody. And you never know as well, there could be another team like the Redskins who say that they want to move up. Now, people have been talking about a quarterback to the Redskins for a while now. I don't love that. Because Jay Gruden, he's really on his last leg there. So why spend a first-round pick on a quarterback that you might not even be there to help grow and maintain when you could be spending it on a much better option to actually help you have a chance of winning in 2019. So I don't love the Washington Redskins moving up, but I do think it is still a possibility. There's been some talk about the Dolphins moving up as well. I don't see that happening. They'll take their quarterback next year. They're not going to take him this year. Another team to mention, the Packers. I know the Packers fans have been all over. No matter who I mock to the Packers, there's always a group of Packers fans that are like, no, that's not going to happen. I could see them going offense in this first round, giving as many weapons as they possibly can to Aaron Rodgers. So I have, in my last mock draft, I did do 2 offensive weapons to the Packers. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. A couple of other things to kind of go over here as well. In terms of my big board, players that I like, my top overall player in this draft is Quinnen Williams. And I've had some questions about why it is him. Now, I like Nick Bosa. I think Nick Bosa is the safest player in this draft. So if I'm the San Francisco 49ers sitting at 2 and they decide, or Kyler Murray, let's say Kyler Murray goes off the board first, they have their choice now between Quinnen Williams, who I believe is the highest upside player, and then Nick Bosa, who is the safest player. Because Quinnen Williams, I'm not going to compare him to Aaron Donald because there is no other Aaron Donald. But what I explained it to and some other people earlier was he's like the light edition of Aaron Donald. So he's a guy that not only is going to create a stir in the middle of the line in terms of being an offensive pass rusher, getting into the or a defensive pass rusher, getting into the backfield, getting up the quarterback, but he can really stop the run as well. And that's why I like him a little bit more than Nick Bosa, because I think he can do a lot more in terms of his upside than what Bosa can. But again, I like Bosa. I'm not knocking him. I think he's a very safe pick. That's why when you look at it from the 49ers standpoint, what do you want to do with the second overall pick? Who do you want to go with there? Running backs, I mentioned them a little bit already. My top running back in this draft is Miles Sanders. And I think he can be a really good key contributor in 2019, landing with the correct team. However, who's that correct team going to be? When you're looking at the draft board, I mean, you could say the Raiders are going to take a running back, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be Miles Sanders. I don't think it's going to be in the first round for them. The Buccaneers, could they take a running back? Possibly. Not in the first round, though. They're going to spend that pick elsewhere. I know people are talking about Ronald Jones still. I'm not a Ronald Jones fan. I don't believe in him. Could Miles Sanders land there and be for Bruce Arians what David Johnson was for him when he was in Arizona? Could that end up happening? So, again, I don't love the landing spots for running backs this year. But what about the wide receivers? What wide receivers do we see landing where? With wide receivers, I will tell you that it has not changed for me in any way, shape, or form. N'Keal Harry is my wide receiver 1. He's the safest wide receiver. DK Metcalf is my wide receiver number 2. He has the most upside of all the wide receivers, I believe. However, I do think there is a considerable amount of questions still about what he can be on the football field when he's healthy. And then Hakeem Butler is my third wide receiver. I could see a total of 3 wide receivers going in the first round is kind of what I could end up seeing happen. Now, also with pass catchers, tight ends, TJ Hawkinson is my tight end 1, only because I like him a little bit more as a blocker than I like Noah Fant. Irv Smith Jr. is the guy that I've talked about going in the second round, especially to a team like the Raiders that need to replace Jared Cook now that Jared Cook has moved on. In my mock drafts, what I have been doing so far with the Raiders is I've definitely done, they're going to go, in my opinion, Josh Allen at number 4, unless something's changed. And they have said at this point that they're going to shock people with their number 4 pick. Josh Allen seems like a guy to go with there. And then after that, I have Byron Murphy, a cornerback. And then I also have, in the last mock draft, Noah Fant going to them. However, if Fant doesn't get that far down to them, then in the second round, they can take a look at possibly giving like an Irv Smith Jr., which I would like for them. Now, let me make just a couple of things real quick clear in terms of players and who they should be taking. The New York Giants, I don't think they should take a quarterback in round 1. I don't. Have I mocked one to them? Yes, my last mock draft has one to them. I don't think they should do it, though. They need to get an offensive lineman. At that number 6 spot, I think, personally, they should go Jawan Taylor. Because if you're really, truly invested in Eli Manning for the next year to 2 years, give him the best blockers available to keep him up off the ground, to keep him from running all over the place for his life, but to also give Saquon Barkley an awesome offensive line to run behind, because they're going to need to lean on him more than they did last year to be truly successful on the offensive side of the ball. You need to have good blockers. So I personally think they should go Jawan Taylor there and then go defense with their next pick. Okay, so I don't think they should go a quarterback in the first round. If it doesn't work out this year, then and you end up crashing and burning, then take a guy with your top pick next year. I don't think that they should go with a quarterback. I don't think that they should do that at all. I've already mentioned that the Redskins, I don't think that they should be taking a quarterback. The Jets right now, I've got Quinnen Williams mocked to them. I definitely think that is an amazing pick if it ends up happening that way. If the Cardinals, I think the Cardinals, their best bet is to move back. I think personally they should drop back in the draft, trade that pick if someone wants it, get out from underneath it, add another, move back in the first round, add some seconds, some thirds, whatever it may end up being, maybe a future first, who knows. But add some future picks because you have a lot of holes that you need to fill. So move back. If that doesn't happen though, then I personally think the Cardinals should take Quinnen Williams at the top of the draft. Again, I've already mentioned he's my number 1 player. I think he is the best player in this draft in terms of his potential upside, making an impact. I know offensive players tend to be the sexy picks in the draft, and defensive tackle doesn't sound that good, but I already mentioned he can make an Aaron Donald-esque type light version. Again, he's not Aaron Donald, but he could make a like impact on a team like the Cardinals here in a year or two when they're a much better playoff caliber team. So that is exactly what I would be looking for there. 49ers, I think Nick Bosa is the best for them. I've already talked about Quinnen Williams. Josh Allen, I like him as a pass rusher. A lot of upside, not nearly enough. Two of the best fits I love in this draft that I want to see happen are both at the linebacker position. And that's with the Buccaneers at 5 if they don't trade back. It's Devin White. I know that there's a lot about taking a linebacker towards the top of the draft that early, but Devin White would replace that Quan Alexander role that he played while he was there. Devin White would be a beast for that defense, a really good defense. Their offense is going to be taken care of this year. Their offense is going to be very good in my opinion. They need the defense to help stop. The other fit at linebacker would be Devin Bush to the Bengals at 11. Now, when my very first mock draft of the offseason, I mocked him to the Bengals, and my mock was mocked because of that. Now, since then, Devin Bush has really shown that he is a true elite caliber type player, or has that elite caliber type player upside. A lot of people say he's a little smaller than what he should be for linebacker, and it's true. There could be some of the bigger running backs in the league might stand him up a little bit. However, he is a beast in terms of his acceleration, his speed, getting through the line and getting to the quarterback. It's one of the best things that he did at Michigan. A little bit of a delayed blitz where all of a sudden out of nowhere, Devin Bush comes off the side or through the middle and he's on top of the quarterback and the play's dead at that point. With Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins on the defensive line, those are going to be two big bodies that are going to create so much havoc up there that when those holes open up, Devin Bush can get through and get to the quarterback rather quickly. Another thing he does well, he does break down at the running back very well. So he gets in position, gets ready to make the tackle. Now again, he could get ran over by some people, and depending on the play, he does have the tendency to over pursue at times. But outside of those times where he does over pursue, he does do a good job of breaking down and trying to keep the play in front of him. So I like that fit with the Bengals. I really want to see that there. I think Rashawn Gary to the Falcons would be a really good landing spot as well, because they need help in the interior and the edge position for the defensive line, and he could offer the opportunity to go in and out and really keep that balance and offer them a lot of flexibility on the defensive line. So I really like that as well. I think the Redskins should go with an offensive lineman. The Texans need to go with an offensive lineman, and the Vikings need to go with an offensive lineman. All three of those teams must go offensive line. I also think the Dolphins, Jonah Williams, if he's available, is one of those top tackles are available there when it gets to the Dolphins. Get your offensive tackle early. Get him in the system this year, so next year when you make the run at your quarterback, you already have a prime tackle ready to help keep him up off his butt his rookie year. So those are definitely ones that I really like there. Cody Ford to the Redskins I really like, because this is a guy, again, if he plays outside at tackle, I think he could be a good tackle, but if he plays on the interior of the offensive line, I think he can be a very, very, very good guard. So he would give the Redskins the opportunity to do either or with him at that point. And again, flexibility. One thing I've said as well, Byron Murphy is my cornerback one over Greedy Williams. I like Greedy Williams, but I like Byron Murphy a little bit more. And the one player that I continue to tout in this draft, and I have from the beginning, is Nasir Adderley. I love Nasir Adderley. I think he's a future superstar. Seahawks fans have told me time and time again, we are not taking a defensive back. That's not what we do. Well, I don't think you planned on taking Rashad Penny last year either, but that's just me. With that being said, I think he'd be an amazing fit. He's not Earl Thomas. Nobody is Earl Thomas, but he can really help come into that safety position and offer some stability there, because he's a future NFL superstar. I love him. Not really. I like him a lot. We won't say love. That's weird. I don't want people sending that to him. At cornerback to some players that I want to keep an eye on, some draft day values. They're not going to go in the first round, but where they may or may not end up going in the first round. At the cornerback position, Amani Oruwariye out of Penn State. I think he has the opportunity to be a very, very good pro at the cornerback position. He's long. He's a ball hawk. He can knock balls down. He's got to work on his feet a little bit, but he can get to the point of attack really quickly. David Long out of Michigan. I'm a Michigan fan, okay? But he was the guy going into the draft, going into the combine. I said, watch him. And he did an excellent job. So David Long is the guy who has shot up. He's my cornerback 5 right now. Chase Winovich, again, Michigan guy, but he's making a move up boards right now. Montez Sweat, I'm not worried about that heart condition like some other people are. Rashawn Gary, I know a lot of people see him as like a top 5 pick. I do have him a little bit more back. He's my edge 4 right now. Charles Omenihu out of Texas, another edge rusher, a guy that I really like, a big, long, lengthy guy. He has a chance to be a really good draft day value for some people. Brian Burns is my edge rusher too. He's right behind Nick Bosa for me. Brian Burns is going to be really, really good. He's going to be an NFL superstar. Okay. I have mocked him to the Lions. He was my very first pick for the Lions in my very first mock draft, and he is right now. And if Devin White is not there for the Lions at 8 and they can't move back, I want them taking Brian Burns. I will do backflips on live YouTube if they take Brian Burns, because I love Brian Burns. In terms of the offensive line position, Dalton Reisner has always been one of my favorite offensive linemen. He is going to be an excellent offensive lineman for somebody. I've talked about Cody Ford a little bit already. And then for running backs, I'm definitely keeping an eye on Rodney Anderson. If it weren't for the injuries, he would be my running back one in this draft. He's got that checkered injury history. I know there's a lot of concerns over him. He's going to be drafted by somebody. I really hope he lands in the right position, because I think he can end up being a really good running back for a team out there. Again, if he's healthy, but he could end up being a really, really good running back for a team that can get him in there, make sure he's healthy, get him to a point where not 2019, but maybe 20 or 21, that he really starts to contribute on a much larger basis. So that's my draft that's the last draft show that we're doing, okay? But I wanted to do one more. A lot of people are searching for draft stuff this week, and I wanted to make sure that the content that we were putting out is relevant to what people are looking for. So I wanted to do one more because we've done so many mock drafts. I wanted to give another one with my thoughts and opinions on what I would like to see happen, instead of focusing so much on this is what teams will do or what I think teams will do. So hopefully you enjoyed the content. If you did, again, hit that subscribe button, share the video, like the video, all those things. We really appreciate that. Make sure you hit us up on the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter at krich1532. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Fantasy Headliners, and we will see you Thursday night live on YouTube for the first round of the NFL Draft. Have a good one, everyone.